Hello, everybody, and welcome to this IGEL Community Meetup. We have a really great session for you today, so I'm quite excited about this. I'm very excited about this. We have Matthias Haas with us, and I think you can see our cameras. So we have Matthias, and of course, Sebastian is always with us, my right-hand man. And Matthias is our CTO, if you're not familiar with him. So thank you, Matthias, for taking the time to do this.
It's a pleasure.
So talk about busy. So when you get into the, a growing company like IGEL, to get the folks from the C-level to do things is not difficult. They want to do it, but to find the time to do it is a different thing, right?
That's right. So
No lack of desire, but definitely a lack of time.
yeah,
So as always, I have a couple slides, if I can, which is real quick. First of all, the agenda. Of course, I'm going to welcome you guys all for joining this meetup. This is, I think, our sixth meetup or something like that, and I'm really excited. We have amazing turnout for these things, and it's a lot of fun to do these, and we hope that you enjoy them. If you have any suggestions for meetups or webinars or anything we can do to offer, anything we can offer you, please let us know. Just post it on Slack or email me directly, brown@igel.com. We'll make your dreams come true. Like I mentioned, we have Matthias Haas, the CTO at IGEL, with us, and we're going to do a Q&A with him, and really looking forward to that. So we do have future events coming up. I sort of ended this year on the highest note I can possibly do. So first we have Matthias, which is, in my opinion, the coolest guy in the company, being the techie side, right? I mean, Jed is wonderful, but that's the business side. Now we're gonna get techie, and that's what we do in the meetups, right?
I like that.
Yeah. So we start off in October with Matthias, and then November we have Chris Flack. And if you don't know Chris Flack, he's a wonderful guy. He's one of the VPs over at Citrix, and he's also a technical fellow. Chris is one of the most unique people you ever meet. It's just brilliant. So we're going to do a Q&A with him, and that'll be a lot of fun. So please join that. And then we're going to end off the year on the highest note we can. We're going to bring on Brian Madden. So Lord knows what Brian's going to talk about, but it's always a hoot. So really excited to have good old Brian come with us. So on that note, there are a few things, links, please. If you're not an IGEL community member, definitely join. You'll really love the community. It's a great place to ask questions, to meet other like-minded folks, to stay up to date with what's going on within IGEL, right? You can request feature proposals. You can, if you find a bug, you can post it in there. There's just everything and then some. But really, it's the heart of the community, of our customers and partners, and you can learn just so much. We have a website, igelcommunity.com. That's where you'll find our blog up there, where we surface a bunch of great resources. You'll find the events and so much more. And last but not least, the events. As I mentioned, we have a great lineup for the rest of this year, and 2021 is going to be even better. And once we can hit the road again, once this virus stuff sort of weans off and dies, then Sebastian and I are going to start hitting the road and come visit you in your homes, not physically in your home, but close to it. If you'd like us to come to your home, I will come. But we will be there. We'll be all around as soon as we possibly can. In the meantime, we're going to have many more virtual events. So definitely stay tuned. Go to /events on igelcommunity.com for all those. So that's enough for me. Matthias has a couple slides he wants to go through, which is just going to lay the landscape of some of what how you sort of see IGEL and in the future and things like that. So I'll shut up, and Matthias, now it's your turn to chat for a little bit.
Thanks, Doug. So actually, I just want to use this to warm up and also to probably warm up my voice a little bit. But I want to talk very briefly to you about the power of the ecosystems that we've built and what we've just recently introduced. And if you can just go to the next slide, I really want to talk to you about IGEL Ready and what we started to do there and how important it is to IGEL and all of our partners and customers. And I think you've seen that we were always talking about the technology partners that we've integrated, and we have more than 90 of those in IGEL OS integrated, helping us to solve for customer problems, to solve for business problems in very different verticals, right? Whether it's retail, whether it's software or applications that we need to support, security, analytics, and stuff like that. And I just want to share a little story around this because this is, and Doug, I don't know whether you've heard that story already, but I definitely want to talk about how we see the ecosystem, why it's so important. And that story is around headsets, and everybody thinks about what the heck headsets. So you just plug them in and they work out of the box. So like a couple of years ago, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, we started to think about unified communication. And at that time, Skype for Business was just trending and starting to be implemented at customer sites. And I was reached by a customer that said, "Hey, we want to get like unified communication deployed on and replace our desk phones." And that started a thought process at that time where I said, "Okay, hey, what's the challenge there?" And people said, "Okay, actually, I just want to use my soft phone as I use my standard like desk phone. It works 99% of the time. If I pick up the phone, I can either start to dial or to pick up a call when it rings, or if I hang up the phone, the call is ended." And we just figured out, hey, this is not really working with a soft phone, right? So there are so many challenges, and it starts with the headsets at that time where you had those wonderful devices, you know, the bulky one that Sebastian is still using. We have also a green dot to hang up, to pick up a call, a red dot to hang up. And those things simply didn't work out of the box, right? And that's where you see where we were reaching out the first time. I think it was Sennheiser, where we said, "Hey guys, we want to talk to you. How can we stabilize this? How can we make this work?" And that basically was driving the whole idea to open up a communication collaboration type of portfolio into our ecosystem. Why is that important? Because, and that's the interesting piece around this, the majority of what we have in IGEL OS is third-party partner solutions that we integrate to help customers, to help the admin teams, to have everybody that is using IGEL OS be successful solving business issues, business problems, to make things work like a desk phone type of architecture. And as you might have heard, we've just taken this in July to the next level with the Ready program. And I just want to walk you through that because I think that's something very important. Doug, if you can just go to the next slide, please. What is the difference between the technology partner program and the IGEL Ready program that we've introduced? It's all about us being very aware that we have built a platform, that we get a lot of input from the community, that we get a lot of input from partners, that we get like contacted by new technology partners that we haven't seen before. And that enables us to add new possibilities, new options to our system. And we were thinking about, hey, how can we make this better? And in the end, it's about building an ecosystem that is integrating technology partners, that is enabling technology partners to work together. So we've seen some examples where IGEL has been a kind of like a matchmaker, and we have like 2 technology partners and IGEL working together to make solutions happen. And this is really, really important because that also shows the importance of like building an ecosystem, also building a community of technology partner solutions to make great solutions viable for our customers. And with that, we've like added 3 main pillars for us. OS integration needs to be simpler, right? So right now you've probably seen custom partition. It's sometimes cumbersome, it sometimes works. We want to improve that with real better test kits and like more documentations around this. We want to be more transparent on what you actually can do with IGEL OS and the partner solutions. So we've built a showcase piece. The better together thing is very important, not only in the community, but also with the technology partners, right? Having clear definitions of what the joint solution is, getting partners closer together to solve problems, being like one voice into the market, driving the market in the sense of innovation. And that is building that ecosystem that is growing even faster. And we've just seen that from that 90 plus that we had middle of this year, we have now 100 technology partners, which is a huge jump because it's a lot of work, a lot of like energy that we're putting in to onboard those partners, to help them be successful on IGEL, but also to help us being successful at customer side. And that's the goal that we are all following, is that we are building those solutions that really matter to the customers and to our partners. And that's why I'm very grateful to be on that call today, learning from you, getting questions and also ideas and like input on how you see IGEL OS or IGEL and what you want to learn about IGEL, what I can share with you. And if you just can go to the next slide, Doug. I promise that this is the last slide. I don't want to make this a marketing event, but I thought this is opening up the discussion, and I'm really happy to spend the rest of that session with you, answering questions, and yeah, looking forward to the input. And probably I will also have a question to you guys somewhere during that discussion. Let's see. So
I had lost my mouse there for a second. For whatever reason, the thing completely disappeared on me. And I'm like, what do I do? How do I unmute myself? What do I do? So let's go ahead and stop sharing screen. And let's go to video. And it's a Mac thing, somebody says. Yeah, thanks, David. So
Apple was very aware of this. So if you shake your mouse, your pointer gets bigger, right? So
this is correct. I tried that. That's when I moved the screen. That's when I changed slides on you. So,
cool.
Okay, guys. So please, if you have any questions, definitely use the questions piece and ask away. I'm going to ask the first question, and then I'll turn it over to, and then Sebastian will ask the second and what have you. So this is a great question to sort of start this off. From a historical point of view, what is the best and worst products that IGEL has launched?
That's a great question.
You like that one?
I can really. So the worst product was the IGEL 1. I don't know. Anybody who has that history? So the IGEL 1 was a hardware product that was like performance-wise below the at that time existing UD2. So it was a really entry-level product. And it was exactly, and the UD2 multimedia. Michael, good to have you here. Hi. And the IGEL 1, it also had like the first idea to be a zero client type of device. So you had to choose at the beginning when you booted that device whether you want to make this a Citrix device. I think at that time, what was that? A VMware device or a Microsoft RDP device, right? And no UMS support. So at that time, we simply ignored that UMS is a key component of IGEL OS. So that was the worst product. The best product, I think from my point of view, looking at what is required today, thinking about COVID, thinking about let's say the needs and challenges with work from home, the investment into ICG. Right, even if you like it or not, but ICG was the right way to move forward to enable people work from anywhere and to help them do their work actually, well, as soon as they have a network connection. So that would be my answer to that.
I would even add some, let's say, some hints from the chat from Michael Hotting, by the way, and the other from René Biegler, speaking about the MDM solution, which wasn't really a huge success. I would formulate it this way.
But you know, the MDM, I don't consider this as a bad product because actually it never got really deployed, so it was a try.
Okay.
I don't consider this as a product really.
Okay.
Yeah, we never really gave it a chance to be either a winner or a loser. It sort of went out there and disappeared. So.
Good.
Then I would take over the next question I received from a customer of mine in that case. My company is asking for security reports. Are you planning to publish pen tests on IGEL products?
Very good question. So just let me give you a little bit background of what we are doing with like security and pen tests. So we have annual pen testing campaigns that we are doing over the whole portfolio. That's every year at the beginning of or in Q1. And we get the report somewhere like towards end of Q1, depending on the complexity and the testing. We do have A lot of customers asking us exactly that question, and we have a product security team implemented. We do have product security measures that we have already implemented, processes, but we are also on heavily investing to move to a more formal program. We do disclose some of our pen testing results, and some I'm just talking about those that we have solved for, because that actually is like a security measure for our existing customers. But we are transparent on that we are doing pen tests and that we are working on to resolve those problems. We are also very transparent on pen tests that are coming in from customers. So we also do have customers that do their own pen tests, and we are very proactive and willing to work through those pen test results, because that's the interesting piece of it, really. A pen test is always just like a snapshot of a different scope of like test procedures that we are doing. And the more pen tests we get, also from customers, help us to improve the product. And just one question or two to also put another view on this. If I pay for a pen test, and those are not cheap, and I'm not getting a result, I would never choose that pen test company again.
Okay, good to know. Thank you very much.
Okay, Matthias. So, I love this question. This is a question I've asked many times myself. I believe. Are there any plans regarding UMS ICG as a service, and or maybe a Docker container?
Yeah. So let me answer those questions very easy and simple. Yes, there are plans. We are currently in the process of prioritizing. We also need to understand better, like, Docker is something different, right? Because Docker, that's a question of how we can simplify the deployment in the cloud. And I think we also need to think about the different packaging of UMS in general. That means that a more service-oriented approach could better suit to cloud deployments. Regarding UMS as a service, just to give you a sense of the thought process, I think there's a question on whether it's an infrastructure service or whether it's a fully managed service type of solution. Both do have some complexities in there, and one builds on the other. So infrastructure is the foundation for the full service organization. We would be stupid if we're not thinking about it, right, and trying to build a plan around this. But I cannot say we have this ready in, I don't know, 2020, whatever, right? But there are definitely people in the IGEL organization that are building plans.
That's really great to hear. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people in the IGEL community, but also in our customer base, are more than awaiting that kind of news. So
yeah,
pretty excited about that one. I'm going through the question and answer, I would say now, from the Zoom part. So I will just take over the first one from David Prose. I have heard this from others and have heard this in the way it works. So I know it isn't just us. Are there plans to make it, I would do it short, to make webcams available in different applications in terms of Citrix optimizations, like having it usage in a Cisco JVDI, in real-time media engine, in Teams optimization, and what would be the next one I would add to the equation then, Zoom, or maybe also having the HDX real-time webcam redirection working both together in one piece. David, I hope I got your question right. So that's my question translation on that one. Are there any plans from IGEL regarding that topic?
So that's a very good question, because I'm not surprised that this question comes up, because we also hear this more often right now. So it seems to be like a trend right now, or like a sign of our time, where we have more people using conferencing technologies, and there's like no single solution. I by myself on my device, I have, I think, 3 or 4 different. So what you're still missing is Chime, for instance, with Amazon. But there are very different sets of conferencing solutions out there, and we are on a way attacking this. That we have the ability to run multiple of those solutions at not at the same time, but make multiples of those solutions available in one single session. That requires not only work from IGEL, but also requires some work with our technology partners. And that's why, again, the ecosystem is so important to us, because we do have those interaction points. And as I said before, we have the matchmaking ability in there. We do have some first solutions that we are currently working on for Zoom and Teams at the same time. But it's work that is in front of us and where we're making progress. But yes, that is definitely something that we want to solve for, and that is key and important for us. Because actually, that's the other point, talking about the headset story. I could also have talked about a webcam story, right? Because all of this is a key component in these new normal times.
Thank you.
Perfect. For the next question, this is from the chat, the Q&A piece of Zoom here. So with all the work from home going on, is there still no plan to develop a genuine IGEL mobile thin client hardware?
Very good question, and I'm also not surprised about this question. To give you the answer on this, if you have a look on how we are building the ecosystem and how we are extending also the ecosystem in the sense of hardware vendors that we are supporting, I think the smarter strategy and to provide people more choice is to go down the route and support more laptop and mobile devices from different vendors. Because what we've seen is that if you build one like mobile, laptop, whatever device, you will never meet all of the criteria of specific customer use cases. So for us, we are investing in making IGEL OS more viable and better to use on different laptop devices. Also considering the docking setups, the docking station setups, which are, by the way, challenging even with USB-C, right? So not those clunky old ones where you just plugged in your whole device, but the USB-C ones. And I think that's the better strategy to have the bandwidth to support those different customer needs.
I agree with that answer, Matthias. I really do. We're never going to make the right device. But we can make an operating system that works on a lot of right devices, right? And if you have limited resources, which everybody does, that's definitely the right decision. I agree with that. Renee, do you agree with us? Renee would be the one that asked the question. So, perfect. Sebastian, your turn.
Definitely. I will catch up a question that came up between. It was how long we will get the IGEL Trader program?
That is a good question, and I'm happy that I'm the technical guy and not the commercial guy. So I have to redirect that question. I'm happy to answer that afterwards. And if you can just take a note on this, Sebastian, I think we can share this in the community. But I don't have that information on hand. Sorry.
I will take over.
That is a good question. I should know that answer. I sit on a call where they talk about the trade-up program quite often, and I must confess I tune out and then work on the community stuff. So like you, I'm on the techie side of the company. So Matthias, I'm going to jump over to one that was submitted. I like this one. Any plans, and you actually talked about this a little bit in your intro, in your opening, any plans on improving custom partition process or creating a friendly package manager functionality?
Yeah, so I think we have to see this in a bigger context. And I think the custom partition as it exists today was integrated or implemented somewhere, if I recall this correctly, 2011, 2012, somewhere around that time. So just to give you some context, I joined the company in 2007, so sometimes my memory is not that good anymore, but I think it's been around 2011 to 2012. We do see that the requirement to actually run local application on IGEL OS and also add like custom applications to IGEL OS the demand is growing. So the way how the custom partition was structured at the beginning, and that actually never changed really, the idea was to have a very simple tool where you can add additional scripts and small little like commandlet tools, what have you, right? But we never thought about getting a team viewer type of application in there. We are happy that we have the capability with that technology that we've integrated in 2011, 2012. But now it's the time to revamp or remodel or up, whatever you want to call this, redo the custom partition piece. We are putting this in a bigger context, as I said before, because we also see that the way ISOs is going to be used changes. So stay tuned on this, but there's definitely something coming in that regard.
Can't wait to see the plans. I would take over the question from the chat again, because it's pretty interesting, I must say. I would take over that one from Leon. Will the UMS web app in the future replace the UMS console, or will the web app only for support purposes and not many administration purposes?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great question. I wanted to ask that question. I loved it.
I'm sorry.
So, yes, yes, and yes. So,
thank you.
The UMS console is going to deprecate over time. So, UMS console, I'm talking about the Java-based web, a Swing-based application type of architecture. So, the UMS web app, the browser-based access to the UMS console, is the tool of the future. Two things to mention about the UMS web app. One, and I think that's also part of your question, is are we going to extend, let's say, the capabilities of UMS web app? Yes, definitely. And we will add, the workflow-driven approach for us is really key and important. So as you've put that in, the support or help desk workflow was the first one because it's an easy one and very clearly structured process. But we are thinking also about update processes, like reconfiguration processes. All of this is a little bit more guided and like structured. If you have a look on the UMS console, the traditional one, I always call it the Swiss Army knife. And what does the Swiss Army knife mean? You can do anything if you know where you find the tool, right? Or you know that it works. But if you're not aware, you know those Swiss Army knife, you have tons of tools in there. If you don't know where that specific tool is, you're pretty lost, right? So you need to go through like a lot of training and education. We will still keep that approach because it adds a lot of flexibility, but we try to provide more guidance with those workflows for, let's call it, more unexperienced people, or for specific like types of EUC admin people, help desk guys, like deployment guys, things like that. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, from my side, definitely.
I'm happy with it too.
That you're all happy.
I'm always happy. Here's a good question: Is there any plan to implement single sign-on across native apps, such as once the machine is logged into AD to pass the Kerberos authentication along to Firefox?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. I would love to extend that context, because actually single sign-on or identity management in the future is key. And I'm talking about identity management that goes beyond the traditional like on-prem Active Directory type of approach or what have you. If we have a closer look on how the world changes right now in terms of cloud and like services like Office 365, which always comes along with an identity, Okta, and like different technologies, we also have to think about how can we leverage those identities to do different things on the OS. So first of all, like initial sign-in, so unlocking the system, for instance, we could achieve this through Azure AD in the future, or Okta integration. With that, you will get a not like specifically a Kerberos ticket, but an authentication token that you then can use to authenticate through your browser to different websites, but also to authenticate different types of local applications that run on the client, or to leverage this on our existing like Citrix receiver or whatever other client architectures. That adds a complete new world of capabilities, because all of a sudden identity is nothing that you need to implement in your infrastructure, but that is simply there everywhere, right? And that is going to be key in the future to also simplify the management and onboarding of new devices and users in that space. So definitely something that we are working on. I know that we have currently a prototype project where we are able to leverage Azure AD and forward the authentication token to the browser, I think to the Chromium browser that we have in 11.04. And with that, authenticate or like do a pre-authenticated login to Office 365, for instance.
That would brings me, to be honest, to a question I received in the last days from a customer of mine, which were asking if IGEL is planning to integrate a local authenticator mechanism like Microsoft Hello.
We are currently like investigating in that direction. So the interesting piece about Windows Hello is that it actually it's relying on an open standard, right? I think it's, what is it? Probably I'm saying something completely stupid.
AVHC from what I recall, but I wouldn't say something right.
So I can't recall what that standard is called, but it's open source, and we're currently looking on this without saying, hey, yes, we can do this, or we have Windows Hello support. But I think it's very interesting to see the capabilities with those open standards and solutions, where we can like add new aspects of authentication, like face recognition and fingerprint and stuff like that, very easily. So definitely a field of interest for IGEL, but we don't have like a specific implementation or project around that right now.
Okay.
Perfect. Matthias, here's a good one that was submitted, actually. Most of our customers were obliged to move to home office during COVID. Are there any plans to integrate firmware updates natively in combination with ICG?
There's a long discussion going on around this, and I appreciate those discussions. So the way how we in IGEL are currently thinking about ICG, it is a management enabler or management kind of like technology. The challenges about doing firmware updates through ICG is that all of a sudden you have a single point of, not a single point of failure, but you have a pretty high bandwidth consumption to a service that we have structured and built to be as bandwidth, like reduced on bandwidth consumption as much as possible, right? So that comes along with a couple of scaling challenges. The best practice that we see right now is that we want to, on a short term, or like for existing deployments, that it's better to use a cloud service where you put the firmware package, right, and then you can download it. Midterm, we see that we want to extend IGEL's capability to provide a update cloud or update service by ourselves, so that you can simply direct your devices that are probably outside the company network to the IGEL update server and download the latest firmware from there.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Then I have a question from the chat. I wouldn't say that I could answer it by myself. So our company has like 1,200 thin clients from IGEL in use, and we try to be up to date and try to don't cross the end of life date. How are the end of life and end of maintenance dates are calculated?
I'm just thinking about how I can answer that question correctly. In general, with OS 11, we have, as you've seen, we have decoupled the relationship from the of the OS from the hardware, right? So there's no fixed bundle anymore. We are thinking about this is a hardware device that you can buy from IGEL, that is a software device. That is a software piece of it. So that means that the availability of hardware endpoints is not tied to the actual IGEL OS version anymore, which gives you the ability to actually be more open towards your planning on the hardware capabilities, because as long as the hardware fulfills the minimum requirements, you can run IGEL OS 12, 13, 14, whatever on those devices. So that's a little bit more flexibility that you get out of that. In terms of the software component, we have and you've seen this probably also on our website, we are thinking currently in 3-year maintenance terms, where we're maintaining a specific version of IGEL OS. And again, there's a change towards the old world, so the world that was before IGEL OS 11 and IGEL OS 10 as a software component. The maintenance piece is key, right? As long as you stick to your maintenance, you can always upgrade to the latest version of IGEL OS. So say we release IGEL OS 13 in half a year and you have an active IGEL OS 11 maintenance, 12, we have an active IGEL OS 11 maintenance, you can upgrade to IGEL OS 12, which gives you, the maintenance gives the ability to jump from one major version to the other and have a continuous stream of functionality with IGEL OS in that regard. So that's very different to the way we were thinking before that, where we were very, very device-driven and thought about in the traditional thin client way, hey, we are selling you a box, right? And the box comes with a supported software. Hope that answers that question.
That definitely.
Yeah, here's an interesting one, Matthias, and I've been asked this question twice in the past week, which it's not a question I hear quite very often, but twice in 1 week. So I want to ask it to you. Any plans for IGEL mobile, for an IGEL mobile app that mimics the UD Pocket that can be managed by the IGEL console, by the UMS?
Okay.
I've been asked this as an interesting question, and like I said, it come up twice recently, just in the past week.
So out of the box, we don't have a plan to do that, but I would love to get more context around this. So what would that IGEL app do on the mobile device?
Yeah, please feel free to put that in chat or put it in the Q&A, your explanation of what this means. And this goes for anyone listening. If you had a view of sort of the ideal app, mobile app for IGEL to create to extend, IGEL OS, so to speak, put that. It's very interesting. I had the same sort of reply, Matthias, is how would we do that? I mean, what would you see it as? So. Sebastian, your turn.
Yeah, so I just had to answer a question regarding specific subnets. So on the other hand, we are speaking about reporting. We are an enterprise customer and are wondering how IGEL is dealing with our needs for reportings. Views aren't what we are looking at or looking for.
Very good. This is something that we are currently investing heavily because we see that we are lacking some of the required features for reporting, especially in the enterprise space. One of those challenges is let's say not the quality, but actually what is in the report, right? So that it's more structured, it's more clean in terms of the things that you want to get out of these reports, like configuration changes, who did this change, when did this happen, and things like that, right? That's the one hand that we have less data in there, but more information, right? So that you actually can generate information out of that data. That's the one thing that we're working on. The other thing is how do we make sure that those logs or reports that we are generating are like transaction safe and stuff like this. So for this, we are currently working on an interface to support the typical reporting servers, right? So where we can, or log servers, where we can transfer those logs out of the UMS domain into a protected, change safe, like signed environment. And those are the two action points that we're working on to address those needs of enterprises. And there are some more nuances to this, but I think that's the in general direction that we are going. And I think you will see the first type of implementation around this in the upcoming 6.05 release towards the end of the year. And the significant next release is the 6.06 beginning of next year that will add some more of those capabilities. So we are definitely listening to the needs of those of our enterprise customers and see this as a priority topic for us.
Perfect. More than grateful for that. More than grateful. Cool.
Perfect. We had a question about the UMS web console earlier on, but there's another one posted, and I hear a lot within the community the excitement around what you guys are building with the UMS web console So how much priority is being put in the UMS web console? How soon will we see majority of the functionality being available there? Is there plans to eventually completely eliminate the Java console?
So I think I answered that question before. The Java console will be deprecated and end of life. I also would like to share a big thank you of the team. I think there was a community session about the first version of the UMS web app, and there was a lot of thought sharing feedback on that. That is really helpful, and we definitely see that this type of input is key to build on a tool that is at least as good as the existing UMS console, because that's a big challenge, right? So we don't want to lose functionality or disable certain sets of functionalities. So it's very important for us to understand what people are actually using. The other thing that we also see is that this typical 80-20% rule, right? So 80%, implementing 80% of the functionality is pretty easy and straightforward, because it's, if you really have a look on what you're using in the UMS console, it's just a fraction of the overall feature set. And I think we can get to that point pretty quickly in the course of 2021. And it is our top priority. Actually, if we are thinking about a new functionality, we are first implementing this and planning this, how this could be done in the web app. But appreciating the current customer setups, we are still putting this in the traditional UMS console first. But everything is prepared in the background. What you will also see, because it's a web app, we are currently working on a concept how we can release the UMS web app way more often in a continuous deployment model, right? So where we are implementing a new feature, releasing it, implementing a new feature, releasing it. So you will see in 2021 that the web app console piece will be released out of sync of the traditional UMS package, right? And that's just due to the fact that the console is a pure UI. There's not a lot of business logic in there. All of the logic happens in the console. So we just need to unlock this and make this available on the graphical interface. So full commitment. This is the way forward. The UMS console is, the UMS web app is the future of the UMS system in terms of human interfaces.
Then I would just give one word, or let's say two: IGEL Pi. And then the rest is yours. Are there any plans to have an IGEL OS version for Raspberry Pi?
So what do you say if you're in front of the Senate? You have to, if you're questioned in front of the US Senate, I'm using the privilege of, I'm not watching that too many videos on that, but
the Fifth Amendment, or the Fifth, yes, I plead the Fifth.
Exactly that thing. But no, just kidding. There is something going on. We will have a session together with, I think you, Doug, again when is that?
On the 20th, that's an NDA session.
Oh,
That's
that's
for the insiders only, unfortunately, for
Right.
everybody. If you're an insider, and it's a reason to be an insider.
Exactly.
To get the inside info.
So having that set and disclosing that, I can definitely say yes, that we are working on something that is built around ARM. And we are very proud of the progress that we are making there. And stay tuned, we will definitely share more with you.
Matthias, why are we doing something, or why would we do something around ARM? Is it for the pie? Is it there a bigger story? I mean, what's your view on it? It's actually a good answer. I've heard it a few times.
I love that question, because that actually it's not around pie, it's around ARM. That's why I tried to answer this in the ARM context. So another story that I love to share with everybody, and I talked about this internally already 2 or 3 years ago. If you really have a look and do an analysis of the requirement of an actual endpoint, and if you really think an endpoint that is made to access virtualized applications, or applications where most of the compute is being done in the cloud or in a data center somewhere else, there is actually no need to have a full-blown x86 device, right? So just think about how often, and that's the question I always ask, how often do you hear the fan of your laptop running during a normal workday? So for my Mac, it's probably also valid for any other device. You barely hear the fan, except something goes wrong, right? So you're consuming CPU cycles like hell. What does this tell you? That the system that you have on your desk is way overpowered for the typical use case you have. Basically, also, no matter whether you're using like local applications or remote applications for your day-to-day work. The second indication why ARM is very important is have a look on your on this one, your Mac iPad. Have a look on your mobile device. Do you see any x86 or any significant amount of x86 devices out there? Probably not, or very likely not. The reason for that is that the cost performance ratio for that use case, that particular use case of an endpoint device, is much more better in an ARM architecture, right? So lower cost, but you have the same type of performance capabilities if you're using the architecture in a smart way. So you're offloading a lot of things, right? So you're not consuming a lot of like traditional CPU cycles, but you're living in the world of decoding H.264 or H.265, encoding those things too, right? And just displaying data. For that, you don't need to have a very sophisticated x86 device. We are also seeing first companies that go down that path, right? So Microsoft was coming up with a Snapdragon-based Surface device. And we saw the announcement from Apple with Apple Silicon, where they also want to completely migrate into the ARM world. And my prediction is we will see x86 being very, very relevant in the cloud, right? Where we have a lot of like processing power. You need to have memory isolation, have virtualization technologies and stuff like that. And we will see an uptake on ARM endpoints in our space, especially where where Win32 apps will run in the virtualized data center or in the cloud, right? Where we are, I don't want to talk about a dumb terminal, but where we have a smart way to display and provide access to your applications on any type of endpoint. So ARM, from our point of view, will play a bigger and bigger role in the course of the next year. And the Raspberry Pi, just because it's widely spread and easily available, is a good example for that. But just have a look also, for instance, with the acquisition of NVIDIA and ARM, right? You will also see other form factors coming up in that direction. That's just my guess, my educated guess, probably. So there's a big picture around ARM.
Really cool.
It's a good story. It's not just a lot of people fixate on the pie, but it's not about the pie. It's about the future of the endpoint, really.
Exactly. Good.
Okay. I have one. It's one of my favorites because it's covering custom partition. It's covering maybe some future features that we will deliver. My customer is asking for an agile way of updating the Citrix Workspace app and subcomponents without having to push a whole firmware image out. IDs?
Can you just repeat that? Somehow I missed that. Sorry.
No issue. I will reformulate it. My customer is looking for an agile way of updating some specific components of the operating system, like the Citrix Workspace app, or let's say some web GTKs or some codecs. And if there is something planned from the agile way, besides the fact of deploying a whole firmware image every time.
Let me start the other way around. So already today we have componentized IGEL OS, right? So the firmware, if you unzip that firmware package, right, what we call a firmware, you will see that we have so-called IGEL partitions in there. And those IGEL partitions typically have like a specific functionality. So there's an IGEL partition for the browser, there's an IGEL partition for Citrix, there's an IGEL partition for VMware, Microsoft, and so back and forth. That concept of universal desktop was invented and long time ago. I'm also, because I'm since 2007 in the company, I think we invented that in 2009. So nothing changed until that point. What we see is that, and that's another reason why that question is very good, is that the sequence of updates that we will see from our technology partners, from the vendors in the future will dramatically increase. Why is that? Because they are delivering cloud-based desktops, and with that they have the ability to add new features quickly on the cloud side, but you also need to have clients that are capable to address those features, right? So that's just another reason why your question is so important. So we definitely need to think about a way how we can more easily update specific parts of IGEL OS and keep the underlying operating system on a stable level, right? And that is something that we are currently thinking about and working on, because we see that this is an up and coming demand, a more and more important demand, right? I hope that answers your question.
Definitely, yes, definitely.
Perfect. You know what? We only have, I think, 6 minutes left. So I do have one final question. Boy, it goes so quick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So someone like Matthias, we should really do this for 2 hours.
Time flies.
Yeah, when you're having fun, right?
Absolutely.
So I definitely thank everyone for all the questions. And Matthias, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I have one last question, and hopefully you maybe give us an answer that takes up to 5 minutes. And that's why I want to ask it sooner than later. If you get your way, if you had your way, where do you see IGEL software and solutions in 5 years?
That's a
loaded question.
Difficult question to answer. So there are multiple.
Yeah, and maybe the technology is not there. You know, think even beyond our roadmaps, right? Think the pie in the sky answers. You know, what would you truly wish that we could deliver?
Mm-hmm. So, there are definitely different truths to that in the future. The way how I see it, and the way how I think we will go, is let me take another historic example. COBOL never went away, right? So that was a technology. It is so deeply integrated in like the core processes of large enterprises that nobody dares to touch it or take it out, right? But the way how COBOL was processed in the past was on the traditional mainframes, right? And it changed over time. It got virtualized too, right? But still, the core of COBOL is there, right? Nobody wants to change this. the underlying technology changes, and virtualization helped to give this like I wouldn't call it a second life, probably the sixth or seventh life, like for that type of technology. Having a look on where we are today with the inflection point in Windows being a continuously deployed type of model, where we have like tons of Win32 applications out there in the world that are very often as relevant and as like complex as those COBOL applications were. And I just recall when I finished university in 2001, everybody said, no, who cares about Windows application? Everything will be in the browser in 2 or 3 years. So now we are in 2020 and close to be in 2021, and there's still a lot of Windows applications out there, which definitely makes sense. So another technology that comes into that play is network connectivity being something that is not related to you having your Wi-Fi at home or having sitting on an airplane and struggling with network bandwidth, or German Deutsche Bahn, right? So where it says that there is a Wi-Fi signal, but in the end you can send pigeons that are transferring data faster than the Wi-Fi on the ICE trains. But let's just take into account, let's say something like this is solved. We have 5G or another technology. Connectivity is something that is just there. I think we will see a world where those Windows 32 applications will not go away, where we still have a lot of like business applications that are highly relevant, but where the way how you're consuming technology needs to be as lightweight as possible. That doesn't mean that you get or the user gets asked stupid questions like, do you want to install that certificate on your device? Do you want to update to the latest version of Amazon? Oh yeah, sure, I'm using Amazon to buy my packages. Just I click yes, right? So it's just, we have to accept that technology will be just there and you're using it, right? Without being like the person that is aware or has command line scripting abilities, or, you know, I'm still coming from the time where DOS was there, right? Or you did command line hacking. People don't want this anymore. So taking all of this into account, the end user stuck. So you and I probably still want this to be, but the actual end user. Taking all of this into account, the more lightweight, the more easier we can make this to access your data and your, I'm not even talking about applications, but you want to have access to your data and information, right? And probably manipulate this. That is where I want to see IGEL in the future, that we are playing a significant part on enabling the ability to do your job wherever you want it and with any device you want it. And that means that we are part of that mix to get access to your data and information. And that's how I see it. Make technology invisible, transparent, just make it work, right? And I try to recall the quote that I gave just recently, and was very educated and funny, and that's why I can't recall it. But it was something like, the technology is there not to make you work, but to make your work work, something like this. I can't recall, but that's in the end what it is, right? We have to make it easy for the actual end users and provide all the ability, the automation, the remote management capability, so that it's completely transparent for the users of the future. And probably, you know, if you have a look on the next generation of workers, they don't care about whether it's Windows or not. They just want to do their job, right? And they are used to have mobile devices, laptops in their hand. I'm still convinced that we will have keyboard and mouse for quite some time, because that is something how you input data. And we have to make this a seamless experience to type in your data and manipulate your data. I hope that those were the 5 minutes. Now it took 6 minutes because it's one minute after 6. I'm really sorry for that, but those are my last words.
Well, I love it. I love it. Matthias, thank you so much. Sebastian, is there anything you would like to add? before we
No,
call this?
just a big thank you for all the time you spent today. Really cool questions, even helpfuler answers I got. No, perfect.
Thanks for listening. And I'm looking forward to get the next invitation.
Anytime we can get you to come on, it would be great with us. And I was just going to say we have a bunch more questions, so maybe we can wrap these. Try to give them answers. So maybe I'll send them to you, and we can see if we can post these things in the community. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for all the questions that you submitted beforehand, live. Matthias, thank you so much. Definitely stay tuned for November meetup. Sebastian has a deep dive on ICG hardening in early November. We're not stopping. We're just getting going. So thanks everyone for attending. I hope you have a great day, great night, great tomorrow.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.